Hello, this is Atlas Elsewhere, and welcome back. This week we've got Targaryens, the first tilt, Westeros' version of a WWE entrance, and Ser Arlan giving us one of the most massive cold opens in A Song of Ice and Fire history. So let's get into my highlights, what felt true to the books, and the moments I enjoyed most. Starting with Ser Arlan and skipping the scene that I'm sure is burned into the retinas of many people, what stands out to me most is how Dunk really paints a picture of his mentor as he moves from one lord to the next, trying to get someone to vouch for him. His description of Ser Arlan here is at his most flattering. And I think the most enjoyable aspect of his storytelling is that we don't know exactly what Dunk truly believes. Ser Arlan was someone who took him on as a squire and gave him purpose, but that doesn't make Ser Arlan perfect. We learn later on that Ser Arlan embellished the story about his jousting match against Baelor Breakspear and wasn't above drinking and hanging out with prostitutes. He was a bit of an odd man. And you get the idea that as a theme of this episode, Dunk is conflicted about how good a knight and how good a man Ser Arlan was, but despite that, he feels a sense of legacy. Maybe he can be better and do better than his mentor, and I think it's a fine baseline for the episode. Moving forward, I especially enjoyed the short scene of Dunk getting to chat with the Kingsguard. My read of this scene is that it's doing two things at once. It's a small bit of foreshadowing, but it also feels like a kid meeting the top expert in the exact thing that they're obsessed with. Dunk wants to be a knight. Dunk sees the value in hard work, kindness, honor, and chivalry, and those are the qualities that allowed him to climb his way out of Flea Bottom. And he naively believes that those are the qualities that qualify you for the Kingsguard, no matter which socioeconomic class you come from. Egg, of course, shatters that illusion later, but for a moment, Dunk gets to see things with a childlike viewpoint of, well, anything is possible. And that's one of the most lovable qualities about the guy. Now, before we move to the big turning point for Dunk and his conversation with the Targaryens, can I just say that the Ashford girl is hilarious? This scene feels like total improv. It's obviously not a huge point to make, but can I explain a little why it feels so interesting? Prestige TV, for the most part, wants to be taken seriously. Everything is grand and heavy and important. When we look at House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, it always looks incredible, but at times it can forget that sometimes people are awkward, impulsive, and just kind of ridiculous, especially teenagers. And it's honestly a nice change of pace. Watching an awkward teenage girl do awkward teenage girl stuff does more for me than 45 minutes of endless gravitas. Or maybe I just like it because I was a very awkward teenage girl, but regardless, it's just something that stood out to me because I liked it. So after that, we get this, in my opinion, perfect book accurate scene of Dunk meeting Baelor and Maekar Targaryen, and instead of some musty dusty lord vouching for him, the heir to the Iron Throne, Baelor Breakspear himself, remembers Ser Arlan. And it's all Dunk needs to enter the list. It's a great scene. Plummer making eyes in the background is actually pretty funny, and we get a look at the man who will inherit the Iron Throne. And he's a good dude. You can really see why the realm loves this guy. And this will obviously be important later. Now, the next thing I want to focus on is the scene with Dunk, Tansel, and Egg while he's being the best wingman ever. There's a lot of important stuff to dissect. First, the line, all men are fools and all men are knights where women are concerned. And I tend to interpret it like this. Men can sometimes lack restraint, specifically when women are involved. There can be a bit of an impulse to act and protect based on ego, whether it be performative or not. It's not saying men are stupid, it's saying romance makes them act out without clearly thinking about consequences. And even if they know there will be consequences, men might just do something out of idealism anyways, because love and lust make them bold. And that's the line. Short, sweet, but so full of truth. And Dunk doesn't know it yet, but he's Florian the Fool. Now, the second thing I love about this scene is the imagery Dunk and Egg decide on for his sigil on this shield. The first thing to point out is that we are involving three characters, one for each symbol. Egg suggests the elm tree, the sunset is meant to honor Ser Arlan, and Dunk chooses the shooting star for himself, which is really fitting considering Ser Arlan and Egg have and will have huge roles in Dunk's life. But the symbolism itself means so much. First, the sunset is an ending point or a transition from day to night. Dunk is going through a whole new chapter in his life after losing Ser Arlan. The elm tree represents security and, at its roots, the humble life of a hedge knight, and the shooting star is his destiny. And it's really important to think about how this will be Dunk's sigil no matter where he ends up. If you've read the books or maybe watched Game of Thrones, you might have an idea where that is, but it makes these symbols really stand out. Now, the last thing I want to focus on for this episode is the joust. And as much as I could gush about Lyonel Baratheon just being awesome and funny again and meeting Steely Pate, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of my thoughts here. The show does a really good job of showing us why these jousting tournaments were really the premium version of entertainment. You want a way to keep your peasant farmers happy and working hard? Give them some blood sport to look forward to, and the scene really pulls this off. It's not just about combat either, it's about identity. Being seen and representing your house matters just as much as your skill, and if you're not from a noble house, it's a way to earn income. It's a violent public spectacle, and it ends with Dunk realizing just how much he has riding on this, and he's panicked seeing just how dangerous it is. The visuals are incredible, the stunt work is A+, plus, and I love that we close the episode on another conversation about Ser Arlan and whether he was a good knight. Dunk takes off his rose-tinted glasses for a second, and we understand that he is Ser Arlan's legacy. Dunk has to make a name for himself, and he has to do it in his own way. It brings the episode full circle from beginning to end. This one is all about knighthood and legacy and what it means to different people, and Dunk is figuring out what that means for himself. If you enjoyed this breakdown, check out my channel, Atlas Elsewhere, like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and I'll be back with episode 3 next week, which had some of my favorite moments from the series, and I'll see you then.